Hello, everyone in Viewerland, and welcome to The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras in California. But as we all know, I do not do this program by myself.
No, my name is Mike Poworski. I'm coming to you from the East Coast to Coast with the Most. I will be your co-host today here on The Rundown, where we bring you 2A views and conservative news. Welcome to the program.
Welcome to the program. Today is a special day. What day might that be, Mike?
Today is Taco Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday.
It's raining tacos from out of the sky. Tacos, no need to ask why. Just open your mouth and close your eyes. It's raining tacos, raining tacos. Out in the street, tacos, all you can eat. Lettuce and shells, cheese and meat. It's raining tacos, yum yum.
Ah,
With the
that is, I just have to say once again, I love Taco Tuesday. It is not only is it full of delicious tacos, but it is also very festive.
It's festive. It's Taco Tuesday. It's great. I don't know what else you can ask for. It's like,
Absolutely nothing else. You can ask for absolutely nothing else. So, Mike,
Perhaps
how is your Taco Tuesday looking thus far?
Great. Stopped by my taco truck on the side of the road by the railroad tracks for lunch today. It was wonderful. Tonight hoping to follow it up with perhaps a cerveza or two.
Nice. Well, I have to admit I did not have tacos for lunch, but my daughter's planning dinner, so we shall see what sort of tacos we shall be having this evening.
It doesn't matter if she comes out with the old filet mignon or not. She puts it on your plate. You got to slide it away and go, it's Taco Tuesday, babe. What's going on?
Taco Tuesday. Just slice that puppy up and put it on a shell.
There you go.
Put it on a tortilla, a tortilla.
That's it. Put it on the tortillas. Yep.
Excellent. Well, we finally had a break yesterday. It was like crazy windy rain. So today we had a little bit of a break. Still a little cool out here. I mean, cool for California, but
Right.
So looking forward to a nice, calm, mellow day. It's been a pretty mellow day for us so far.
Nice. That's good. No more power outages today?
No more power outages today. Folks, yesterday I was worried we weren't going to be able to do the program because the power went out for a while. So, but needless to say, the good Lord sought to give us power.
You don't have the old big Generac ready to go standing by at the Rundown studio there in California?
If need be, I do have it. I generally reserve it specifically for emergencies.
Right.
So yes, if need be, I could. The only challenge at that point would have been whether or not we would have had appropriate internet access.
Yeah, I got you. We got a generator set up here also at on our studios, and the problem is it's right next to the wall with the right there. So we could do the program, but it would be like, hey, Craig, how's it going? Because I'd have the generator going right there at location Bravo.
I definitely feel you on that one, sir. I definitely feel you on that one. So, hey, why don't we go ahead and get into today's news, shall we?
We shall.
We shall. So, this first story was one that I kind of crept up on me from the Sunday morning news shows. There are people out there who are like stoking the belief that there is an imminent and there will be a what's the word I'm looking for? Imminent is the word I'm looking for. Imminent attack by Trump supporters in order to basically take back or as they like to say, steal the election, but take back the election of 2020. If not, be prepared to force Donald Trump back into office in 2024. And I wanted you guys I wanted to show you this little clip here from Meet the Press and then get your take on it.
I'm going to read what Bart Gellman wrote in that cover story for The Atlantic. Some might say this is hyperbolic, but John Hellman, I'm curious if you think it is. The headline is, Trump's next coup has already begun. Trump and his party have convinced a dauntingly large number of Americans that the essential workings of democracy are corrupt, that made-up claims of fraud are true, that only cheating can thwart the victory at their polls, that tyranny has usurped their government, and that violence is a legitimate response. Hyperbolic or fact?
Fact, I think. And I think the thing about the strength of this Gelman piece is it lays out, first of all, the extraordinary reality that there's this research that shows that something like at least 8% and maybe as many as 12% of the American people now say that Joe Biden was illegitimate and that violence is an appropriate tool to removing him and restoring Donald Trump. That's somewhere between 20 and 30 million people. That's a mass movement in America in favor of political violence, which is a new thing. We've had political violence in America before, lynching, many things over the course of time that African Americans suffered from. But this is 30 million people right now who are ready to take up arms. You put that together with what the president, the former president, I should say, and his allies are doing in the political realm.
Yeah.
State houses, state legislatures, and the party apparatus to be able to engineer a situation where they are in a stronger position to pull off a coup in 2024 than they were in 2020. That's not hyperbolic at all. Those are all facts.
You are playing producer here. In fact, I have a scroll here of everybody the former President Brendan has endorsed that has a role in certifying elections. I'm not included members of Congress in here. He's gotten involved in state Senate races, state House races, and there is just one litmus test, just one. This feels as if we're entering a place that is going to get darker and darker if the election is less than 1% on any level.
All right, Mike, there's so much to unpack here, man. I mean, what do you think of this?
You know, Craig, early on in that video, there was a screenshot of a newspaper clipping. Could you pull the screenshot of that back up?
Yeah, let me see if I can get that back. All right, there it is.
There you go. Okay. And this starts off their whole argument. The whole thing goes from here. Trump and his party convinced a dauntingly large number of Americans that essential workings of democracy are corrupt and that made-up claims of fraud are true. Okay, you know what that sounds like? That sounds like a politician running for office, talking about the other side. Is that not what every politician does, Craig? Talk about the opposition. We are the Republicans, they are the Democrats, so you talk bad about the Democrats because you're the Republican. They are failing us. They are corrupt. So here we are. We're going to make things better, right?
That sounds like every politician ever.
Exactly right. Only cheating could thwart their victories at the polls. You and I have had our disagreements about there, but I believe there's evidence out there of this, whether you agree or not. And I'm not going to say right or wrong. I'll just say that there is evidence. How about that? We won't say if it's good or bad. We'll just say there is evidence.
I think that's fair.
That tyranny has usurped their government. Well, as far as those that have had lost an election, they feel like there's no tyranny is there, whether that's legitimate or not, and that level of tyranny. But here's the last sentence. That's absolute, or the last portion of the sentence. That's an absolute lie. Violence is a legitimate response. You've seen that nowhere. Nowhere have you ever seen President Trump. In fact, he has stood up and said the opposite every time, that violence is not a legitimate response. If you really think he's that crazy and the January 6th insurrection was real, why didn't he call for violence then? Why wait until a year later into Biden's term before calling for violence?
Well, Mike, even worse, who is the political party that is actually saying that violence, in terms of people rioting in the streets, people attacking law enforcement officers, who's the one who's trying to explain away why that's okay? Even if they are not actively condoning it, and some of them, by the way, are. Some of the folks on the left are condoning it, but they're the ones that are saying, "Well, you have to understand why they're doing this."
Craig, that's mostly peaceful. Just so you're
right,
aware.
mostly peaceful.
Mostly peaceful. Yeah, okay. It's the hypocrisy. It's the lies of the left, and we continue to see that. It's all right when they do it, and they can throw Molotov cocktails at police cars, and that's okay.
Right.
But if God forbid somebody in the conservative camp happens to mention the word tyranny, then it's they're talking about an uprising and threatening and taking the Capitol by force.
Right.
I'll tell you what this is, Craig. This is a well-laid plan for the Democrats to stir them up again for more gun control. Yes. Because they want to take more firearms, and here you go. This is a way for them to justify going inside, because now they can stir the politicians, right? Before, Craig, it was just in theory that these people with guns would do crazy things. But now, hey, all members of Congress and Senate, they're coming for us. They're coming to the Capitol. They're going to come for us and kill us unless we take their guns.
Now, let's be clear. We all know that there are people out there on the internet and people out there who are in fact saying, calling for armed insurrection, yada, yada, yada. We also know that most of them are wackos. They're either wackos or they are people who are just spouting off at the mouth, because the people who really are like open to the idea of an armed insurrection, they're not talking about it on Facebook.
No. Yeah, right. Yeah. Listen, that's just, sheer lunacy, right? I'm going to come up with this great plan and we're going to blow things up and I'm going to post it on my Facebook page.
Exactly. Because, nobody monitors Facebook.
No, definitely not. Definitely not at all.
But yeah, no, it's, I don't want to say it's insane, but the point is that if anyone is trying to stoke fear, if anyone is trying to push people towards violence, that's exactly what MSNBC is doing. They want the left to be violent towards the right, and they're doing so. They're encouraging it by telling them that we are seeking to be violent against them.
Yeah, it's okay for us to be violent, but by the way, the right's not allowed to be violent. So go ahead and have a conversation. You guys go to a meeting together. Stand across the street corner from each other and discuss your differences.
That is exactly how they work, sir. That is exactly how they work.
Yep.
All right, so moving right along, LAUSD, that stands for Los Angeles Unified School District, the second largest school district in the entire country, has laid off staff. They've now basically laid off staff who have not gotten the vaccine. They've laid off up to 500 staff. And by the way, that includes many teachers in the midst of a teacher shortage. In particular, in California, we're having a very difficult time hiring teachers. And as such, because people don't want to go into the teaching profession because, well, you aren't really allowed to do what you need to do in order to be able to teach in places like California. So there's a teacher shortage, and on top of that, now because they are seeking their own medical advice and they're looking at their own medical advice, and many of them are young and healthy and or have already had COVID. Now they're deciding that now the Los Angeles Unified School District has decided, your services are no longer required.
Yeah, just more of the left believing the lies, right? Listen, and again, if you choose between you, your family, and your doctor that you want to get a vaccination and the vaccination is right for you, then all for you. We support you. Craig and I both support you with that. But when the government comes in and tells me that I can or can't do something because I have or have not had a vaccination, that is, first off, I don't need to be vaccinated against something that I'm not exposed to or is a threat to me. All right. We can go back over the history of vaccinations and cures and diseases and all of that. What we've come down to here is this is government tyranny telling me what I must do, or therefore they will take away my ability to provide for my family. That is the definition of tyranny right there.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And the funny part is they don't get it. They absolutely positively don't get it. And it's frustrating because, once again, these are the people who are responsible for educating our children. If they don't understand the concept of tyranny, and they're the ones that are supposed to be educating our children, and what are our children learning about government control and government tyranny?
Yeah, it just further adding to the what they've learned since 9/11. The kids that are students today, they've learned nothing but the sacrifice of freedoms for security, and it's just getting further and further down that line right now.
Yeah, not exactly awe-inspiring, I would say.
No. The only awe in this is, look at these dummies, look at these idiots. They don't get it, really, literally. And again, this is nothing against those folks that have not had the vaccinations or folks that have had the vaccinations. This is against the government's overreach. And in every court, every time here, time after time, has said you can't do that. You can't do that. But again, It's California. They don't care.
Right. Well, exactly. Well, but California's not the only place where rights are subverted. The state of Illinois, for example, they've done an audit of their program. Now, you know that in some states, like in Illinois, in order to be able to own or possess a firearm, you have to get what's called a FOID card. All right. Now, this FOID card is basically allows you to be able to own or purchase a firearm. Well, you have to have to put in an application. They do a background check, all of this stuff to make sure that you're not a criminal or all of that. And well, but here's the problem with it, Mike. They've determined that 87% of FOID card requests, 87% of cards are not processed in time. Now, we're not talking, Mike, we're not talking weeks. We're talking years. Like, to get your original FOID card, the delays are up to or over a year. And if in renewals, it's like 214 days. I mean, we're talking people are going, what would that be? Almost over half the year without their FOID card, without their ability. So in other words, you had the ability to own or possess a firearm, and now all of a sudden you've lost it, not because you've done anything wrong, but because the government can't process your application in time.
Yeah, 214 days, 7 months, right? So, you know, when the COVID hit, right, and everything got locked down, everybody was afraid to go to work and do their job. Now, many of the state governments, local governments did say, okay, as your cards expire, we're going to give you a 30-day extension, which then turned into a 60 or 90 before they realized they could open them back up online, you know, without having to have people in place for the renewals anyway. And then that still ends up because, you know, people still have to push the buttons on the computers, right, Craig? Still ends up into a 214 delay on renewals. So you're failing. Okay, you're failing. At that point, you need to get back to work. Or listen, if you're so concerned about the COVID, get yourself a nice isolationist booth. It's IT anyway. Build yourself one of those Faraday cages and go live in it. You know, so you can't get anything in there whatsoever. And then they go as far as to say, well, we have no ability to process new ones. So you could be waiting over a year to try to, again, Craig, I'm asking permission from the government to exercise a right after paying a fee, and then they're making me wait over a year. Huh? Let's go back to that last story where we talk about disgruntled Trump followers. Huh? Let's maybe there's a little bit of tyranny example right there for you.
Well, and then once again, you wonder why people get upset when you start talking about tyranny, and that's, you know, the problem is that whenever we start talking about the concept of tyranny, they start thinking, oh, they're going to come after us armed. But the fact is that when you start subverting people's rights, and then you show absolutely no regard for the fact that this is occurring, then yes, that is tyranny. When you say, well, we, the government, are going to decide what inalienable rights you get to exercise, that's not the way it works. Government does not exist to give us rights. Government exists to protect those rights. And when the government decides that they're no longer going to protect those rights, or even worse, that they're going to subvert those rights, then yeah, people are going to want to throw that government out. And by the way, we have the ability to do that via an election cycle, via elections. The key is we got to make sure that those elections are valid. And now, once again, I think Mike and I disagree. We disagree on whether or not the last election was quote unquote stolen. But I think there is no disagreement that there was a lot of hinky stuff that went on. That there were a lot of problems with there have been a lot of problems with the last elections. And by the way, I know that some were created by COVID and some occurred the last election, but I don't think, in many cases, I don't think it started in the last election.
Correct. But I also believe COVID was one of the tools by the left. You know, how many times did we have a bird flu, an H1N flu, and everything else that went on? But all of a sudden, because after President Trump is doing great, where she's coming off the State of the Union speech, now this comes around. It was a great way to take him down. Great way to take him down. So,
well, Mike, there's a reason why we write these. We do bills of rights, right? There's a reason why we write these rights down, and it's not for when times are good. Because the first thing that happens when challenging times come, the first thing that people in control want to do is subvert the rights of the people. And the reason we write those rights down is because we want them to know that when those times come, because once again, as soon as there's a crisis, what they want to do? They wanted to shut down churches. They wanted to control the media. They wanted to shut down gun stores. They wanted to prohibit people from being able to own or possess firearms, right? We all know this. It happened during Katrina. I mean, it happens. And so we write these things down so that mostly for the government to understand that, you don't get to just subvert our rights and take away our rights just because you declare an emergency.
Listen, the Constitution was written during a pandemic. People were losing up to 1/4 of their families during the time that the Constitution was being written. and there is not a word in there about emergencies this and pandemic that. They just wrote the Constitution.
Exactly.
So your
Exactly.
constitutional rights are your constitutional rights. Has nothing to do with whether there's a pandemic or not.
Right. Well, and it was kind of funny. That reminds me. So a license, someone once said a license or a permit is when the government takes away your rights and then sells them back to you.
Exactly right. As Second Amendment, exercisers have known for years and years and years.
Yes, that is something that we have had to deal with for quite some time. Okay, moving right along. Now, here's another thing that people think is a, or there's some people on the left think is a fundamental right. And that is the right to not be in debt, or at least not have student debt. So Business Insider did a story, and this is about an independent voter with $163,000 in student loan debt and left the Democratic Party after 4 decades because Biden did not erase their student loan debt. Mike, you seem to have a particular interest in this story, so I'm gonna let you go ahead and rant for a minute.
They could have found a nice 22, 23, 24-year-old student who has been struggling to find work in the post-COVID and has this little bit of little bit of student debt, and the Student Debt Bureau is trying to get their money back. No, they didn't choose the perfect person for this story, Craig. It's kind of like when the gun rights, when we do a lawsuit, you look for the perfect victim. Somebody that's got skeletons in their closet that are going to come out during the process. So what is this? These people do? They go out and find this woman who's got $163,000 in student debt. Oh, by the way, she's 53. Yeah, you heard me. She's 53. She has not been struggling with student debt for 2 or 3 years. This debt she's had for about 20 years. Now, she went back for her PhD in her 30s and accumulated a $40,000 debt. Well, she got injured. She hurt her back, something along those lines, so she couldn't make those payments. So she stopped making the payments. So inside of 4 years, it doubles because of insurance. Because guess what happens if you don't pay your loans? That's what happens. It's in the loan contract.
It's called compound interest too.
Yeah. If you don't like the terms of the contract, don't sign it. You don't have to go to school. Plenty of other ways to go to school for free, by the way. All you have to do is raise your right hand and swear to serve the public for a little while afterwards. It's easy to do. So she does. She gets to the point where she's got $163,000 in student debt. Biden comes along and says, we're going to wipe out student debt. Well, great. I'm a Democrat. So there's been no student debt or student loan collection for about 8 months because of COVID under Biden since he took office. And now she's mad again and changed to independent because her debt's coming back around again. Here's what a perfect candidate she is, Craig. She talks about, well, she's making $100,000 a year now, but she can't pay off her student debt because if she does that, she can't put anything into her own 401k. Huh? What? Well, how about we look at our bills and we pay our bills first before we start to pad our own account? You've made an agreement, you've made a promise, and now you want somebody else to come along and tell you, no, it'll be okay. We're just going to spread that $163,000 around, by the way. Yep. It doesn't just, it's gone. We just wrote it off. It's gone. No, everybody else has to pay it. Okay.
Right.
That's why my tax rate goes up. All right. It's like credit card debt the same way. You know why I can't get a 3% credit card? Because you jackwagons keep defaulting on your credit card and forcing the rest of our interest rates up to make up for you idiots.
All the rest of us wind up paying because of the financial decisions or incorrect decisions that you make. Dude, I know people who've gone back to school. They've got not one master's, but they've gotten 2 masters. In some cases, they've gone to get their doctorate and did or did not complete the work. But in the end, I'm like, and they're like, well, I've got all this debt. I've been paying on it for 20 some odd years. And I'm like, wait. Did you not do a cost benefit analysis to determine whether or not you were going to, 1, could you afford it? And number 2, did you look at what the lifetime income that you would be bringing back in order to be able to pay for it, to make it worth it? I mean, Mike, I look back and sometimes I wish I'd gone back and gotten a postgraduate degree when I was younger. But I looked at it at the time and I said, you know what? I cannot afford it without going into massive debt. So I decided not to. Now that I'm older, I could probably afford to do it. But the problem I have now is I look at the lifetime of income, like, how much more is this going to allow me to earn compared to how much I'm going to spend on it? And it just doesn't pencil out. So I'm not doing it, right? That's called being responsible for your own personal finances, for the decisions that you make. What are we teaching people if the most educated among us get to say, yeah, no, I don't want to pay for this education that I just got, that I went to go get? I'm sorry. Just because you decided to get educated into imbecility, I'm not paying for it.
Well, listen, there's a whole new batch of them that happened under Obama, and now it's happening again under Biden, where they talk about we're gonna forgive student debt, we're gonna give student debt. So you know what they do? They're going out and purposely racking up their student debt because hey, it's gonna get forgiven, so I don't even need to worry about it. And look what happens.
Right.
This is what happens. The rest of the world says, hey, you know what? Listen, moron, be responsible for your own stuff. I'm not paying off your stupidness.
Right. And by the way, folks, in many, many cases, we're not talking about the young person who went out and went to a trade school. In some cases, you've got those instances where these trade schools misled them and made them believe that, oh yeah, we're guaranteed to get you a job. First of all, you need to go after those trade schools. If they guaranteed they were going to help you get a job and they didn't help you get a job in your field, then you've got a legitimate gripe there. But a lot of these folks, most of these folks I'm talking about are these graduate degrees, these people who, by the way, are earning six figures, who are doing quite well, who racked up all that debt, and now just, they've been paying on it for a while because they haven't decided to fulfill their obligation. They feel like they've paid enough.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
All right. Well, let's move on along. Los Angeles Police Department. I don't know if you've seen this video, Mike. There's a video out there. He's the union president for Los Angeles Police Department. And, he is kind of letting folks know that if you're thinking about coming to LA, it's probably not a good idea. Let's check out this video let's check out this story real quick.
My message to anybody considering coming to Los Angeles, especially during the holiday season, is don't.
A sobering and somewhat terrifying statement from the LA Police Protective League, the union representing LAPD officers. The message coming as a crime wave continues to slam the city and surrounding areas.
We can't guarantee your safety. It is really, really out of control. I said it to people before. It's like that movie Purge. Instead of 24 hours to commit your crime, these bad people have 365 days to commit whatever they want.
The warnings seem to resonate with residents.
It's pretty scary walking at night.
Sarah Veenstra moved to LA from Wisconsin about 6 months ago. She didn't realize crime and safety would be such major issues.
I genuinely thought it'd be a safe area. It turned out not to be as safe as I thought. I'm definitely carrying something on me every single time I walk out of the house when it's dark out.
All right. So, Mike, I'm like, dude compared it to the Purge.
Listen, this is what happens when you vote away your law enforcement, you vote away your training funds, you vote away overtime shifts, you vote away, half the things that the law enforcement can do. And then when the crime goes up, you start complaining. You know what? Don't live in LA right now. He's made excellent points. And unless you want to come be subject to random acts of violence, stay out of LA.
Right. Well, but LA's not the only place. That's the funny part is we're not just talking about LA. There's the San Francisco Bay Area. There's Stockton. There's New York.
Sure, but the same
Chicago,
things have occurred.
There's Detroit.
Any city, right? Any city that's done any city that's voted away law enforcement funding and law enforcement training and law enforcement, any city that's done that, this is going to happen. You know what? Yeah. Sometimes you make that bed, you got to sleep in it. So here you go. Go ahead. It's all yours,
people
folks.
And I think you're right. I think people need to understand the people who live there, who might complain about it. You need to understand these are the people that you keep electing to office.
That's right. Yeah, I get zero sympathy. Listen, now, if you're one of those, you're a hardcore conservative, and it's going on in your town, and you this is continuing to go on, and I know this hurts, and we've had this conversation before. You've got to look at getting out of there. Okay. How many times can you be hit and beat before you say it's time? I really think you need to think about leaving.
Yeah. Well, many are thinking, many are considering. And me being, I'm not necessarily in this, well, I am in the city, but down the urban area. But It's really easy to talk about, but when you have kids and grandkids and family and business, it's not always
Not
easy
an
to
easy
just pack
choice.
up and leave.
Yeah, I get it. Not easy choice. It's something you have to examine. You're talking about a generational, life-changing thing for your family.
Yeah.
I get that. To up and move, from one state to another. That's huge. Okay, that's huge. And my family did it before. I didn't have to make the decision. Family made the decision before me a generation ago. But it's something you've got to examine. It's something you've got to take a look at.
And the other thing is, and this is for the, kind of a warning for people who are in those states that people are moving to, is that not everybody is moving. Not everybody who is moving to your state gets that it's the policies. And so they're bringing some of their left-wing liberal stinking thinking with them. And so you may think that it's not coming to your state, but trust me, there's a good chance that in many cases it is. Those of you who live in Texas, those people who live in Arizona right now are starting to deal with some of it. People who live in Nevada, same exact thing. They're even worse. They're way more than a few steps ahead of those who are in Arizona because their legislature is now controlled by those who've moved to Las Vegas. Yep. And it's literally turning from a red state to a purple state, and now leaning very, very blue as they control both the executive and the legislative branches there in the state of Nevada, of all places.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Governor DeSantis here, Captain Florida, to figure out a way to pass a law that says only conservatives can move to Florida, or you get a bonus if you're a conservative and you move to Florida. If you're registered
there you go. You get an extra vote if you're a conservative.
Well, listen, you have to countermand the extra Democrat vote that the dead people get.
Yes, you do.
Perhaps you get a nice $5,000 bonus check if you're a conservative and you move to Florida.
Well, the funny thing about Florida, though, is actually, if you look at the numbers, Florida has actually become more red. So many people are moving. There are not a lot of Democrats. The number of Democrats moving to Florida compared to the number of Republicans. I mean, Florida used to be a purple state. It's close to red. It's purple leaning red, and it's tracking towards red.
Yes, and I believe we have Florida Man to thank for that, because all of the things that go on with Florida Man, the crazy Florida Man, I think that scares the Democrats from coming down here. Whereas the conservatives are like, bro, hold my beer.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Moving right along, and I don't know why I went down to that one. Let's go back up here. Okay, moving right along, we have our parting shot. Now, folks, and I know some of you are getting tired of this story, but we are going to continue to bring you these memes as long as they continue to be funny. Jussie Smollett, or as Mike likes to call him,
Juicy Smouillet.
Juicy Smouillet. All right, now this meme I posted when it first happened, when we knew it was fake, and everyone knew it was fake when it first happened. Everyone except for us, Democrats, and Black Lives Matter, or Black Democrat politicians, because most brothers I knew it was fake.
Yeah. And the LGBT, they accepted that it was real as well.
Yes, they accepted that it was real. Anyway, but I remember, dude, this was one of the funniest memes at the time, and it is still very, very funny. Shout out to Juicy for hiring black actors for traditionally white roles.
I love the little
shout out Juicy.
Justice for Juicy. Oh boy. Yeah, you're right. As long as they're funny, we'll keep posting them. Ride that dead horse into the ground.
Yeah. No, but once again, what amazes me though, Mike, is you still have people out there defending this. You still have people out, despite all of the evidence. I don't know. I'm tired. I'm done with these people, man. I cannot even begin to figure out what some of these folks are thinking.
Well, listen, they're thinking that these two people might be related to Nicole Brown Simpson's killers, and they're out looking for them also.
There you go. Okay, well,
looking for these people that don't exist.
Hey, it's about that time, sir. How about we give a quick shout out to our sponsors?
Hey, Guerrilla Machining, Grid Defense, and our good friends at the California Republican Assembly. Thanks for being with us. Make sure you support them. And every time you need a Republican vote in California or an AR part.
Exactly. Those are the folks to check out. Now, folks, do us a favor once again, please. Check them out. Their websites are linked right in the description of this video. All you got to do is click on it. And when you go there, make sure you let them know that we sent you. Please make sure, tell them the guys over at the Rundown sent you. And then we will talk to you again tomorrow. Tomorrow will be hump day here on the Rundown. So remember to tune in. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and encourage your friends to do the same.